What up, guys? Welcome to the Just Pearly Things YouTube channel. Not today, Satan. Okay, so I'm gonna show you the front of the house. I could not find a sibling that felt like watching me walk around the house all day. So, back of the house.
So how did we get to the point where a rich, white American woman, the daughter of a multi-millionaire, is having neo-Nazis on her channel that is largely guested and staffed by working-class black men in London? This is a tale about Pearl's black supporters, but it's also a tale about black history.
If you have watched 2 or more of our videos and you have not subscribed, then we have what, Pearl?
Beef!
This frumpy, single, unmarried woman who's built a channel on so-called marriage advice, endorsing accountability for women, an endeavour that consists largely of repeating the ideology of definitely emotionally stable podcasters like Fresh and Fit.
You're a fucking creep, Abba. I'm calling your dumb ass
With
out.
such methods as humiliating women who show up on her podcast, calling them things like rude bimbos, making them rate themselves out of 10.
I want everyone to rate themselves 1 to 10.
Saying they're less valuable as a human being because they've had kids.
Personally say a kid puts you down to a C or a D. My gut is telling me D. Are you trying to misunderstand or are you dumb?
For some reason, she seems to largely speak to and appeal to black British men who join her in her favourite hobby of telling women how awful they are.
How was you raised to speak disrespectful to a man you have never met? You say you're university, you say you're doing singing, you say you're doing all these things. All you've come and done is been so aggressive towards
night,
history.
I don't feel
but
safe.
that going alone at night is a luxury. Why do you do it?
Her podcast went viral during the rise of Andrew Tate, and Just Pearly Things found herself awarding clout, fame, and a very small amount of cash to a number of these black Londoners. She soon joined forces and gave contracts to YouTubers like SaRa Garvey, MTR, and King Richards, creating a network supposedly there to hold women accountable. SaRa's content soon mimicked Pearl's, creating video content like this. Statistics are kryptonite to modern women. The world of delusional women. Fuck modern women. King Richards also mimics Pearl's, where he records this type of content.
Would you be mad if someone called you average looking?
No. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Okay, so this video is so bizarre. It's 10 minutes of him trying to seemingly get the girls who throughout the conversation remain polite and patient to say that they wouldn't be okay with calling themselves average, but they definitely don't seem to mind.
So if a guy said, oh, you're just average, you'd be alright with that?
I'll be okay.
You wouldn't feel any type of way?
No.
If someone was to say to you, you're average looking, would you get upset? Opinion, what do you think of yourself, like looks-wise? What do you think of me? Average, there you go. Said that to you, you'd be like, nah, I'm not. So what do you think you are then? Like, what do you think? Go on. So 5 is average, so where would you be? Okay, 6, that's quite low. Shall we look at the definition of the word beautiful?
Oh, wow.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is literally the level of questioning throughout the entire video. The dude is not exactly Plato, is he? And at the end of it, the video is called This Delusional Woman Says She Likes Being Ugly. Nowhere in the video does anyone say they like being ugly, or is the word even used. Throughout the Just Pearly Things network, there seems to be a gratification that comes with putting the women down. And it seems to be mainly women who are black or ethnic minority. But beyond the network's obsession with trying to lower women's self-esteem lies ideologies that are far more sinister, such as the idea that women are property and you can even demand sex of them when they don't want to give it.
Like this, it's my body. Shut the fuck up, man. When you get in a marriage, I own you, bitch. You are my bitch. If I want to have sex, you're gonna open your legs.
There's another word for that. Thanks to Pearl Davis, it seemed young men who no one had ever listened to suddenly had a voice. They could sit around blaming another group of people for all of society's ills, i.e. modern women, and get their 15 minutes of fame too. For a moment, it was beautiful. Until something definitely very surprising happened. Pearl invited a neo-Nazi on her channel. Awkward.
There's always something like this. They say, well, Jews are higher IQ. They perform better on the test by 2,000%. They don't do 2,000% better on the tests.
There was immediate backlash. King Richards, Auntie Jenny, and a few of her other goons rushed to defend Pearl, but some of Pearl's allies immediately dissented.
You knowingly invited a white supremacist and a self-proclaimed racist onto a platform which is primarily supported by black people.
She had a colonial type viewpoint when it came to black people. I had to school her. Do you think that historical catastrophes must be compensated for?
No.
And not once in the interview did you have at least some form of ethical defense for the people who carry your production machine forward.
There's a book, right, called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. And when you read that book, you realize that the whole Industrial Revolution and stuff like that was started because of the colonization.
I can no longer support or associate myself with the Just Pearly Things platform.
It was as if MTR and SaRa Garvey thought they were doing their small part for the black liberation movement. But there was something very curious about this sudden hearkening to radical black liberators. Mainly that up until that point, many had not seemed to realise that Pearl had already been using the divide and conquer tactics of colonialists, even talking about stripping humans of their basic rights, albeit under a different guise. As the saying goes, history doesn't repeat, but it definitely rhymes. You see, a few months earlier, Pearl had declared this.
I don't think women should vote. Huh? I don't think women should vote.
No, women, you can't vote. No birth control. Keep it going.
I know, because it's always freedom without responsibility. And
I
so,
love
like,
it.
the
Women
reason...
should not
No,
vote. Pearly
but
said it herself.
I'll tell you why, though. I'll tell you why. Because I believe in consequences for your decision. So the men know if they vote someone batshit crazy into power, you guys get drafted. We don't.
Other than the fact that Pearl's reasoning was completely wrong, the draft does not exist in Britain or many other countries anymore. The places in pink are the places where we no longer have the draft. The places in orange show it's legally there, but rarely practiced. And in many countries where it still does exist, women are actually included in the draft. The nations highlighted in yellow here show the places where women are included. And let's not forget that women also participate in war efforts in many other ways, such as nurses, radar girls and factory workers for machinery.
Why did I take a defense job? I'm sorry, but you'll have to excuse me. I'm too busy to answer through questions like that.
But anyway, that's by the by. For some reason, the idea that stripping half of humanity of their basic human rights had not rung alarm bells with her band of merry black boys. SaRa in particular had righteously wielded the radical works of people like Walter Rodney, but he had either by design or by mistake completely ignored something very important about black history. And that's that it had always been deeply intertwined with feminism, the feminism that he claimed to hate. Let's take, for example, liberators like Frederick Douglass. He was considered the forefather of American black liberation. He was an escaped slave who endured beating, starvation before fleeing on foot to become an advisor to Abraham Lincoln and helping lead the War of Emancipation. A giant of American history, had written books such as Frederick Douglass on Feminism, where he paid homage to the feminist movement and rights of women. He also married a radical feminist. W.B. Du Bois, another giant of American history, had written The Damnation of Women, a chapter from Dark Water, Voices from Within the Veil. Du Bois provides a detailed analysis of the inequalities between black women, white women and black men. He envisions a world where we will pay women what they earn and insist on their workings and earning it, where we allow women to vote, where we honoured motherhood and don't overburden women, and where we make sure fathers don't shirk their duty. He talked a lot about the connections between racial and gendered oppression. Or you had colonial liberators like Thomas Sankara, an African anti-colonialist and a military leader. I mean, he's hardly some blue-haired soy boy, is he? He was considered one of the last heroes of anti-colonialism, and he was also a staunch feminist. This is him talking a bit about women.
Nous devons donner à chaque femme le moyen de gagner honnêtement et dignement sa vie. Comme constatons l'émancipation des filles. Il faudrait qu'ici aussi nous commencions à nous débarrasser de cet art féodal. Ce sont des arts féodales, de l'éducation féodale, qui nous a dit que le garçon est toujours au-dessus de la fille. À l'école même, quand les filles sont en grossesse ou des choses comme ça, on les renvoie, n'est-ce pas? On les exclut. Mais on ne cherche même pas à savoir si le partenaire avec lequel elle a eu la grossesse là ne se trouve pas par hasard dans la classe.
There was also many women in the black liberation struggle themselves. Let's take for example Cecil Fatiman, who helped ignite the Haitian Revolution, the most successful slave revolt of all time, and an event that began the collapse of slavery throughout the Western world. And of course there was Nanny of the Maroons, who led the Maroons, a group of escaped slaves, to victories against the British Army. Or Harriet Tubman, one of the leading abolitionists who went back into slave territories to free other slaves, including men. Nana Asantewaa, who led an army of men to fight the British. And we won't forget Ella Baker, Harriet Jacobs, Fannie Lou Hamer, Rosa Parks, Angela Davis, all women who gave their lives in the name of black freedom and for black men. Even the stupid ones. I wonder if SaRa Garvey or King Richards or Andrew Tate would tell the women who fought for their freedom to submit.
I had to learn that hitting back with my fist one individual was not enough. It takes organization. It takes dedication. It takes the willingness to stand by and do what has to be done when it has to be done.
Bang out the machete, boom in her face, and grip her up by the neck. Like, shut up, bitch!
Do you think that historical catastrophes must be compensated for?
No.
The link between feminism and black liberation is no coincidence. Throughout black liberation, you find connection points between other movements, and the theme that you should stand up for others was threaded right through, as far back as the Haitian Revolution, when French white revolutionaries and black slaves fought together, and where the ideals of universal suffrage began. Toussaint Louverture, the ultimate forefather of black liberation and the leader of the Haitian Revolution, assimilated the ideals of the French Revolution into the ideology of black liberation. The motto went, liberty, equality, fraternity. Over 200 years, this is part of the idea that developed into a left-wing intersectional movement. By the 1960s, the vast majority of black liberators were either socialist or communist, understanding the link between class dynamics and identity.
Socialism is the people. You're afraid of yourself. If you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself.
Integral to this was the idea that you build international solidarity and recognise the dynamics between all oppressed groups.
And then we get down to the nitty-gritty of the question that Mrs. Hamer spoke to about whether we're moving toward unity, the question of coalition.
These ideas of solidarity emerge again and again in black thought, most famously expressed in Martin Luther King's idea to end injustice everywhere.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
In other words, stand up for other people, not just your own. Stand up for other identities, not just your own.
We say all power to all people. We say white power to white people. Brown power to brown people. Black power to black people.
Of course, these ideals did not always manifest in reality, and there were certainly those who were far more narrowly identitarian approach. But the ideas of cross-group solidarity most certainly stood as a spiritual centerpiece to the revolutionary ideas that ushered in most of the rights that we enjoy today.
Fuck out of here. You look like a clown. Get out. Get out. Do it. Try me again. Do it.
Power at its best is love, implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love.
The history of black liberation has always been built on the concept of universal love. And that's why you find so many different types of people working together. That's why you find feminists and black liberators working together. Now you might say, well, I don't care, I'm black and I don't care what happened in the black liberation movement, and I don't care about the fact that most of them would not have accepted this treatment or these ideas about women. But let's put it this way. Imagine if Pearl had said, I don't believe black people should have the vote. Imagine how radical that would seem. Imagine if we insinuated it was okay to hit black people if they did not do what you said.
Bang out the machete, boom in her face, and grip her up by the neck. Like, shut up, bitch!
Andrew would call us lazy hoes. He used to strangle us as well.
Or that a black person should endure abuse because they needed to appreciate and withstand traditional social hierarchies.
If there's someone that's very, very young and goes into a marriage, a year into the relationship, it gets really, really abusive, then what would you recommend for those people? Would they divorce, even though it might be like physically abusive?
You gotta endure. People are too...
You want to stick into the relationship?
People are just...
See,
I mean,
okay,
endure.
I'll tell you what...
Endure.
It is such an extreme...
When you get in a marriage, I own you, bitch. You are my 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 bitch.
And when he threatened to beat me up in the bathroom, and he said,
The logic and the way of thinking of gender in the Red Pill community is no different from some white supremacists living in 18th century America. All we've done is swap the hatred of black people with the hatred of women. Look, this is a guy admitting to drugging and raping girls on the Fresh and Fit podcast.
We used to do it without permission. So it's not like she came over and said, hey, I want to sleep with all you guys. Yeah. We just come in with...
Oh, shit.
Yeah, she...
We might have to go off Twitch. Yeah. Okay, Twitch.
When we see people openly laughing about people being gang raped, or showing absolutely no sign of empathy when people talk about being abused by their spouses, we're not far off from these images of the American South in the 1950s, when people would laugh and stare with dispassion at dead bodies of black people hanging from the trees. We're talking about people admitting to committing egregious acts of violence against other human beings, and those on the podcast showing no emotion whatsoever. So I hear you say, well, you can't compare anti-black racism to misogyny because men and women are biologically different. Well, this is kind of exactly the same logic as the eugenics argument, which was fundamental to racist ideology in the 19th and 20th century. Through simplistic and extremely generalized interpretations of biological difference, dubious data collection methods, and poor understanding of biological science, a justification for the domination of one group of people over another was forged. In the case of racial eugenics, it was the idea that white people are superior with better IQs, better physiques, and black people are inferior, ignoring the vast differences that existed within groups and the very many shared attributes that exist between groups, and ignoring the environmental and social changes that can affect someone's personality. Being obsessed with women's biologically different traits and using that as a reason to dominate them is exactly the same as the 20th century eugenicists. I think we find it easy to connect with the destructive nature of racism over the destructive nature of sexism because we possess so much visceral public imagery as a result of racist ideology. Sexism is largely a phenomenon where its results are confined to the domestic realm and hidden away from the public's view and the scrutiny of the journalist's camera. If we had photos of all the women burnt alive during history, of all the women battered and bruised by their husbands, of all the rapes that they endured, perhaps we would take the normalisation of violence against women and the idea that their rights should be stripped away more seriously. It's common throughout history for people to turn on other groups of people when you feel that you are losing power and resources, and it always works best when societies are in a downturn, like it is now. Just like the 1930s, we see a turn towards fascism and extreme ideas again in Europe. So alluring is the quest for power that it happens time and time again in different forms. Weaker groups of people are demonised, while those with true power sit on their vast wealth. Charismatic and authoritarian people give people a gateway to tasting some of this power by creating justifications for abusing people physically weaker than them, whether it's because they possess a weaker military or a weaker body type. It doesn't really matter. And each time fascism takes on a different look or a different guise, we fail to see it for what it truly is. Sometimes fascism looks like this, but sometimes it looks like this. And it always starts with a little subculture taking hold and spreading like a virus throughout society. Today, Pearl maintains a huge black audience, yet continues to be affiliated with white supremacist ideals, whilst members of her panel continue on with their fake black liberation stance.
Come from slavery time. Just
But why even speak on black women's hair?
Hold on a second.
Why do you care?
What? Because I'm a black man. Hold on a second. You are not separate from me. This is like saying...
As these men get deeper into this movement, they become more and more hateful, more and more rageful. Look at this guy, he can hardly breathe, he's so angry.
These fucking faceless dickheads coming on chatting shit, bruv. You'll never say it to me in real life, ever. Oh, do you hate women? Or you do. Oh, fuck your girl, bruv.
What fascinated me about this story was not that Pearl had affiliations with white supremacists. More than anything, it was the ignorance of people like SaRa Garvey. The movement for black liberation has always been closely intertwined with feminist and building coalition, and white supremacy has always been intertwined with ultra-traditional gender roles and separatism. So why were the SaRa Garveys of the world so surprised when Nick Fuentes turned up?
I wasn't.
If you feel angry about the way your life is going, if you feel lonely, if you feel isolated, instead of turning on half of humanity, be like the greats of black liberation and build solidarity across groups, whether it's gender or race, rather than work to create segregation and division amongst ordinary people. This division only helps those who truly have power. The case of Pearl Davis is a perfect example of this. She's an ultra-rich person that came from afar to sow hatred and division so that she can make a quick buck. This was an alt control film, and if you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.